Howdy, howdy! We are live on a Friday night with a yet another episode of the Star Trek Con audio drama to discuss. So I'm really looking forward to talking about this one, episode 4. We're coming up on that halfway mark of the show, and it continues to be pretty riveting in my opinion. So without further ado, we have plenty to talk about, so let's get the show started. I know. I'll get my phone turned on silent during the opening credits. Don't worry. But I'm Fathery.
This is Dave.
Awkward. Sorry, I'm Miss Taylor.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back to the Starship Texas for the 350th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight we are talking about Star Trek Con Episode 4, Magical Thinking, written by Kirsten Beyer and David Mack, story by Nicholas Meyer, and directed by Fred Greenhalgh. Before we dive into this latest episode of the Con audio drama, just a little bit of quick housekeeping per usual. I want to give a big thank you and shout out to the wonderful, delightful people in the Tex-Trek Patreon. Thank you so very much, Starfleet Sohel, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchie, Joanne Robertson, John Daw, Geek Filter, Quarks Bar, Matthew Averett, Braxton, Chuck A., Joel Vallis, Arthur Lamoureux, our associate producer Chris Garris, Dave Farabee, Dave A. Gregory, Joe Saporito, Wanda Valentine, Rin, and our anonymous supporters. I just want to remind everyone that we like to celebrate with our patrons with monthly Patreon watch parties. And the next one we have scheduled, the watch party for October, is going to be Saturday, October 18th at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to be watching the Discovery episode, The Sound of Thunder. At least I'm almost positive that's the name of it. It might just be Sound of Thunder without the, but it's the episode where they go back to Saru's hometown. They go to the home world of Kaminar for the first time, and we see the Baiul and the Kelpians and their struggle to find balance on a shared home world, and also they have some scary tar monsters that eat people in that episode. So
Is this the Halloween outing specifically?
yeah, I think it works as that.
I think so. The Baul are very creepy.
Yeah, and it's an episode that I think a lot about because I think it reflects some real world events. I think you can kind of lens like Israel Palestine as kind of the Kelpians and the Baiul, and this history and like this shared land, and how things can reveal themselves to be not what you grew up thinking. So also topical to some real life events as well.
I if I can make it, I'd like to join y'all for that. I haven't seen that episode in a while, but I kind of always like the Kelpian Baul stuff.
Yeah,
So.
it's a season 2 episode, so you get a lot of Anson Mount Pike action in that.
Oh, always a plus.
So looking forward to that on October 18th, and that's open to any patrons. You can come in at any tier and get into the monthly watch parties as little as $2 a month. And if you can afford to help us at a more generous level, we have some additional perks. So please check out the Tex-Trek Patreon. For example, if you can come in at the bridge crew level or higher, we'll throw additional watch parties for your birthday. So if any current patrons, I know there's at least a couple who have November birthdays and they're supporting at bridge crew or higher. Let me know if you'd like us to schedule a watch party. You get to pick what episodes we're watching, and we will get that on the calendar. But really looking forward to talking about this episode of Con, so I think we can go ahead and dive on in. Before we get into our episode breakdown, where we're going to run through the whole thing beat by beat, let's just each give some of our quick thoughts on and our general takeaway on the episode. I'm getting ahead of myself, but before we give our opening statements, let me just recap the episode with the official synopsis, and I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers. The synopsis reads: sorry, I think that's last week's. Okay, here we go. Marla McGivers identifies an urgent threat to the colony. Khan grapples with leading his followers through the increasingly difficult times, and a startling revelation from Marla. I feel like that would have worked for like last episode too. Like I was looking at that in my notes and I was like, are we sure that's the one from this week? But I guess it is in both the places I keep notes. I left that there, but they end up having a basically the discovery of the Ceti ills. We learn more about them. They have a queen, like the Borg, or like the xenomorphs in the Alien franchise. So not incredibly original,
but also just like insect colonies do. So.
Yeah. I guess it is like a fairly common thing on Earth, as well as Ceti Alpha 5. But it leads to a big boss battle with the Ceti queen. And the reveal that, like, oh yeah, Marla McGivers was packing heat with a phaser all along. But now we also get the reveal that she's pregnant, and her and Khan get their new society on Ceti Alpha 5. Their augment culture. I guess it's like their first wedding on their new home world, and it was kind of a thing that they focus on a lot in this episode is actually the building your culture side, I guess, of like building a society. A lot of talk about, we need like rituals and traditions and like shared community experiences. So, kind of almost, it's kind of positive and optimistic, but they're still struggling on this new world. They've had like a few deaths, but they seem to be like, oh, we can bear through this and still thrive and become something great. And they seem to be possibly on that trajectory if we didn't know what we know is coming.
Yeah, they're about to have some bad days.
Well, Taylor, before we go into our episode breakdown and run through the whole thing beat by beat, why don't you give the first opening statement and just let us know your broad thoughts on episode 4, Magical Thinking.
I felt like this one was pretty emotional for me. There were a couple of times I got a little choked up and teary. But yeah, there was a couple of things that kind of surprised me. I really liked seeing Ursula and Marla bond in this episode and kind of grow trust between them. Because I hate like the women versus woman trope. Like, I like it when they kind of get along better. I think that's more realistic. So it was cool to see them grow and like become more professional with each other and respect each other. And I also really liked Khan's proposal. I was really surprised that he kneeled to her, and kind of, he has such a big ego, and so I felt like that was very like a huge deal for him to like get down on one knee or whatever that he said was customary. So that kind of got me a little bit, because I was like, maybe he isn't so bad. And then in the back of my head, I'm hearing Dave be like, don't get attached. He's not that, like, don't be don't be forgiving him. Like, he's a bad guy. And
you should hear Sulu saying that. Be careful that Khan doesn't lure you in, Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, he respects her. And then I'm like, wait, don't get attached. But yeah, I really liked this episode. There were some things I really liked, especially with Marla. There's some things I'm really worried about moving forward. Like pregnancy trope is like number one hate trope for me.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? By pregnancy trope?
There's so many things that can go very bad with like pregnancy stuff, and it can lead to like, I think there's just some things I'm just hesitant on for like where they're gonna go with it. Like
kind of exploitive cliches and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and like Marla just being like a birther and not like a person herself, and like especially with like Khan wanting to like populate this place, and I don't know, like I'm worried that she may lose some agency, and I don't know, like there's just some things about the pregnancy trope. I don't have like, I can't like pinpoint it. Like it always is a little different, and that's why I'm like
what trope?
I'm mostly just like concerned because nothing has happened so far that's like big red flags for me. But it's mostly like, where are they going to go with it? And that's what makes me nervous, is I don't know what they're going to do with her being pregnant. But I don't know. Like my fears are like, I guess mostly just her like becoming more of just like a carrier of a baby and not like a person.
Right, or she's a tragic sacrifice, but
right, or like they kill her, and it's like even more tragic for Khan because he loses his wife and his baby at the same time, which sounds like what's gonna happen.
I mean, something like that almost has to happen. It's
Yeah.
kind of a question of how do the writers play it. They've been pretty sophisticated so far, but you
Yeah,
know,
so, I mean,
anybody can fall into tropes.
Nothing has happened yet that I'm like, oh, I hate this so much, but I just have hesitations because I won't know it till I see it because I don't know like what they're gonna do. Like they may surprise me, but I've read some books that just like, ugh, like just like make me want to throw up. Like it just really just kills like the independence and like the romance for me. Like sometimes it's like, oh, and now we're just parents and we don't like each other anymore, or like I don't know. It's just, there's so many ways that it can like change things, and I think that a lot of people who are writing like pregnant women are men, and so they don't really understand like how like pregnant women are, and like maybe they're like, oh, this person is so over the top about their pregnancy, and I don't know, like, and they're so over the top about this child, but they forget that they're also a person. And so I think that's primarily where my concern lies, I think, is just like we lose learning more about Marla and she just becomes like pregnant Marla. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I had a question. Had we ever is it in Star Trek 2? And I'm forgetting, like, did they ever mention that Khan had a child or that Marla was pregnant? Did that even come up?
That came up in the deleted scenes from the Wrath of Khan, where Khan had a baby that on the Reliant with him, but then they cut all of that out. But they shot it. Like there's like footage of. I think the only thing that exists now are just the still images, but you can look up like the picture of like the little augment baby playing next to the Genesis device on the Reliant.
You know, we talked about that. That possibility that there could be some survivor or legacy, if nothing else, passed down in this. And if Nicholas Meyer, say, wanted to follow up on that story arc or do something with it, if Khan had a kid who, I guess, based on when Marla was pregnant, would actually not be a kid, by any stretch of the imagination by the time Wrath of Khan happens, I wonder if they, they could write into the background, oh yeah, there was a kid on the Reliant, they took him up, they dropped him off in Ceti, or not Ceti Alpha, but on the, what is it, the place where Carol Marcus works, whatever the name of that place is. The
Regula Station.
Regula Station, yeah, and, was like, he's not a part of this, and, that will be revealed. They integrated him because Khan wanted somebody to have like a life that had no connection to anything in his past. Anyway, that's a big maybe, probably not. But Taylor, real quick to speak to what you were saying, am I correct that there is also still two scripters? So,
Kirsten Beyer and David Mack.
right. So we do have a little gender balance in there, and hopefully that
Although
will.
I don't
I
know. I don't know if Kirsten Beyer has kids, or even if she's. Well, I don't really know anything about her personal life, but she and I guess she's a little bit more of like the head writer on the show. It sounds like they had the story from Nicholas Myers that was he had it all like broken down how you would do it audio, and then Kirsten Beyer and David Mack like tweaked a few things, and then Mack did like the final scripting. But then Kirsten Beyer was like in charge of like casting the voice actors and like like the
Okay.
more like showrunnery side of it from there. So
I guess what I would say is there's a woman with some input on this, so
Yeah.
you know.
but I don't know what
Maybe we'll get something.
Like-
out
I
of
don't know if you were
Like
asking Taylor if she sees the Kirsten
I
Beyer
said-
influence.
Oh no, I wasn't necessarily asking. I was just saying that gives some possibilities to avoid male writer tropes. If there's at least some input from a woman writer.
Yeah, like I meant is like I mostly just have like some hesitations right now. Like nothing has bothered me yet. But it just makes me a little trepidatious moving forward.
Is that like it's just like in any story though? If like a character is
Yes,
pregnant,
and
you're like,
any
oh shit,
story,
they
it's-
they might ruin it now.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. This is just something I don't like to see in most stories because it feels like it ends up being not well handled in the end. So, I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do feel like with what I've seen from the show so far, like I do like kind of trust that they're going to do something not bad. so I can just wait and see, but I just want to put my hesitations out there. That's
Yeah.
all.
Cool. Well, Dave, what about you? What's your thoughts on magical thinking?
I do have like one concern, and it's one I've voiced before, but I'll come around to it in a second. So I actually it's another episode I really liked. I'll just start out with that and say I think this is kind of in some ways the finest hour for both Khan and Marla. A lot of very resolute people. Khan the most resolute, but Marla we've seen. He's like I am Khan, and she's like I am Marla. She responds back in turn. They kind of both bend in this. We see Ursula also very steel-willed. She bends in this, and there's compromises made and trusts forged, and when Marla or when Ursula sees Marla's qualities, she invests some trust in her. Then Marla is able to get Khan to kind of change his position on things and kind of show some compassion towards the losses that his people have experienced, and not just push them forward mercilessly. And he kind of actually, I think, at least at times in this episode, he is the leader that Kirk challenged him to be. He rallies his people. He's got heart. We can talk about whether we want Khan to have become this or not, but this definitely showed that there was a time when he did it, like he actually accomplished it, I think. And the thing that makes me nervous, not maybe as intensely as Taylor's, is also something I'm excited about. So we talked about this a little last time. They brought up the question fans have asked over the years sometimes, which is, why didn't the Enterprise know the system was unstable? If the Reliant, why did the Reliant not have more accurate information? Didn't Kirk chart the planets?
What Lear said, like, did they forget how to count? They showed up to the star system and they didn't notice one of the planets were missing. Like, it seems like that would be a big red flag as soon as you jump out of warp.
Yep. So they've brought it up, and that means this is Chekhov's gun. They've cocked the thing, but it has to be answered. The gun has to fire. And I'm like, how do you answer this without kind of tearing down Kirk? I threw out the possibility last time that the systems, Khan had done something when he was on there, something about his takeover had a ripple effect, and the scanners weren't at their peak or whatever. but that's pure speculation too. And I find it exciting because I think this is a show that has shown respect for Kirk. Tuvok stands up for him in this episode, and in general, I don't see these writers as trying to tear him down, but I don't know how they're going to get out of it without doing that. And so that's an exciting place to be, and a slightly anxiety-inducing place. But that's okay. As long as they don't F it up in the end, then all is well. I think that this show is proving that David Mack should be a writer on the shows. I mean, I think full stop. I think he's shown he's got what it takes. He brings a level of kind of character and Trekkie detail to it that it's nice that reflects, I think, some of what the novels have done over the years, and I want to see him on the shows now.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that he told us, Dave, when we had him on the show last year, was that if Kirsten, who she's been a writer on all these live action shows that they've done, Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds. But if she ever gets her own Star Trek show, then she would bring David Mack on as a staff writer, it sounds like. So I'm all for that's the show I want is eventually we're going to have to pick up in the 25th century, right? And see what's going on there. They ended Picard with a plan for a possible show, Star Trek Legacy, with like Captain 7. Terry Matalas has gone on to Marvel to, he's doing, I don't know, the Vision show on Disney Plus or whatever. He's doing this Enemy Mine remake movie. He's got other stuff going on now. But I say put Kirsten Beyer in charge of the Captain 7 on the Enterprise G show. And have David Mack be a writer on there.
I think that would be super great because something we talked about in person is like these people are writing without visuals. Like they're writing to make the story clear and compelling without relying on aesthetics and like imagery. And so I think like taking that writing style and putting it in a show that also has like the visuals will just be like
it'll push it to a next level.
Yeah, like it'll just really take, because I think that's what's lacking so much in like shows like Strange New Worlds is like there's a little bit less substance in the story. Like it feels like the writing of the dialogue isn't as considered as like the aesthetics of the show. And so like when you get this like show that is zero like visuals and like the only thing you can do is tell by dialogue and story, it really like forces them to be concise and compelling and clear like with their storytelling. And I think you work these people into something and they like get these scripts and then they take them to a team that's like, okay, now we can add visuals to this. I think that will just like knock it out of the park. Like, cause I think that they'll already be like so reserved and like matter of fact with what they're writing that it will just lend to a better show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're not going to be relying on the visuals. They're writing a script for like an audio drama, and of course, I'm sure if when you write for a show, you will also think of the visuals, but they've definitely shown this capacity for a really tight scripting.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'll be real quick with my opening statement thoughts because I'm just going to reiterate some of the things that y'all covered. But yeah, exactly, Taylor. This was a conversation that the three of us had in person. By the way, we took Dave out to eat for his birthday, so we received some PayPal contributions to the Dave birthday fund. So and thank you, Joel, for the super chat during the live show last week. But
I believe Jill also had a contribution in that mix.
Okay, well, I don't want to say everyone who like sent something by PayPal unless they want us to. But
let's delete that. But yes, that was generous both on Taylor and Father's part to take me out, and y'all's part for kicking in. We had a really great time, great conversation. So it was well worth it. Y'all gave me a good birthday.
But one of the things that I brought up there at the table that I'm gonna bring up now is that I feel like television or at least like a big budget show, like something like Star Trek Strange New Worlds, that, you know, they're going to put a lot of money in this, so they need it to appeal to a lot of people. They want it to be like the easiest show to watch ever. You know, no one's going to feel challenged by this. You're just going to sit down and just, oh, wow, the Enterprise looks so cool. Oh, my goodness, Ortega's such a funny thing. And it's just like, all style and so little substance, and it makes me sad that this audio drama is written like so much better and is not gonna rely on like here's just like a, you know, a cute funny scene between like these really likable characters played by these gorgeous actors. It's like oh no, we actually have to have like a story that like moves people and makes them feel things and think. And it's just like, yeah, it's just like, man, like TV feels like it's, I mean, I can't say like all TV because there are shows that I think do those things.
Sure.
But it's, a lot of the big budget shows just feel like, oh yeah, this is just written for like a stupider audience is what it comes off to. Or like an audience that doesn't want to put like much like thought and effort into the story that they're consuming. But yeah, it's kind of a frustration. But you know, I feel like Star Trek has a tradition of telling these the complex, challenging stories. I mean, nothing like, you know, like groundbreaking, but at least, you know, like things that you know, just like hang with you. Like, you know, they make you think. You go back and like, oh yeah, I remember the first time when I was a kid and I saw, you know, like the Horta spelled out no kill I, and the reveal that it wasn't a monster, that it was, you know, like a sentient being, and just, you know, like those types of things. Or like, oh man, like I remember like following Cisco down that dark path in the pale moonlight and being like, I know he crossed the line, but it's so hard for me to determine at what point. And it's just like such a, oh wow, that story, you know, like it stays with you. And I want to get like that caliber of storytelling. But the other thing that I saw in this episode that I'm really enjoying, obviously, and I'm feeling so good about it, it's making me like a lot of the live action Trek less. But the pregnancy, I think, and this is a theory that I've seen some people online, you know, floating around since the first episode, but I think that the baby might end up being Dr. Rosalind Lear. I think that might have even been something that like I suggested in one of the previous weeks recently.
Yeah.
The age would be about right. Sometimes it's like kind of weird to place when exactly Wrath of Khan happens or Star Trek 6, but just based on something that I think was in this last most recent episode, they say that the Reliant went to Ceti Alpha 5 6 years before this. So I'm thinking that the years they're going with are, for the people who care about the timeline stuff in the years, Wrath of Khan happened in 2285, and then this story is set in 2291, 6 years later. So I said 22, right? 23rd century. Okay, yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think Dr. Lear would be at that point, you know, if she's born 6 months after, or I guess it'd be like 9 months, or like let's just say like a year after the events of Space Seed. You know, if that, assuming that baby is born on Ceti Alpha 5, and is still alive at the time of, you know, Tuvok and Dr. Lear going through these logs, I think they would be 23 or 24. So
it's a pretty young doctor, but, you know, not certainly, I don't think impossible in Trek times. You know, that's interesting because, you know how the commissioner, the Starfleet people at the beginning of the first episode were like, you know, where'd you get that transmission? Well, that would explain the link to the initial, you know, how they found excerpts from the logs would be some connection to the literal place. It would mean that this is a story about her trying to find out about her father and mother, and would be personal.
right.
And at the end of this very episode we're about to discuss, Khan and Marla have a little bit of a spat over how they're going to raise the kid. Is this going to be a Starfleet kid or not? Well, that looks like that could be the decision. That's the very thing that Lear is trying to figure out herself.
They also have a shuttle pod that they could send a kid in, like Superman. like, they could Clark Kent this kid.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what
Yeah.
I mean? And, like,
Yeah,
they could be separate from the Reliant.
This
I
is
hadn't
very
even thought of that.
interesting. That's very
Or what if, and maybe, like, whatever they do to launch this kid in space, what if, like, somehow that that causes Ceti Alpha 6 to blow up? I don't think that's going to be the case, but...
No, I think it would
That'd
be
be messed
before
up.
that. They're going to realize, like, oh, Ceti Alpha 6 is failing, and then they're going to send their kid out on that pod. And that's what I would think, anyway.
Oh,
Maybe
man,
they
this-
send it with another person, like maybe someone we don't know yet, or maybe Meadows' kid, maybe.
Yeah, there's some interesting possibilities here.
Yeah. But that would
Yeah,
be...
Meadows' kid is for sure should also be considered in this as a possibility. Man,
Yeah, no, totally. That makes a lot of sense.
this is exciting, y'all.
I kind of like that
I know.
more. But yeah, it
It
is
could be
exciting. Yeah, we should move into our episode breakdown. But
Yeah,
I
let's do it. There's lots of interesting things to talk about.
I do want to comment that living on a doomed world and thinking, like, how the hell am I going to, secure a future for my child? It's probably something that a lot of parents find relatable, right? It's something that I think about, like, 7 or 8 times a day, and I'm like, I'm glad I don't have a kid that I have to worry about surviving the future of my planet. But yeah, now that I've cheered everyone up with that comment, let's go into the episode breakdown. So we'll just start off with the opening of this episode, the Richter Sylvana aftermath. Khan is burying bodies while Ursula performs the autopsy. But we get that conversation between Khan and Ivan. This was all supposed to be secretive. Khan wanted it to stay low-key, classified. That
He just killed one of his own crew members. After that crew member, in a crazed state of mind, killed one of their own too. Like, there is a lot of internal violence and death here, and he's not wanting it to be known.
Yeah, it's just like it had only happened minutes or hours before this first scene, and like already, like, Ivan is there, like, oh, I know about Savannah. I want some help digging the graves.
Right. It
He's
becomes
a
clear.
writer guy.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I alternately like him and kind of fear him because he's the kind of zealot who he's hinted at, kind of like, oh, could he kill Marla if Khan wasn't around? It does seem like at times he has been, but he's definitely a ride or die too.
And my theory last week is, like, I think he has a crush on Khan and he's jealous of Marla. Although there's a line in this episode that kind
There's
of
bromance
butts up
at the
against
very
that,
least.
But yeah, and even like it doesn't have to be romantic, but you can get jealous of, like, oh, my friend was so much cooler before he had this girlfriend, and like,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, I could. It still works, but I don't know. I think Ivan seems like he's deeply in love with Khan, but yeah, definitely dedicated to him. But
there's a neat bit of scripting in there, I thought, where Ivan comes into the room and he's starting to tell Khan. He just begins a sentence. He's like, Ursula has begun to, and we know that he's probably about to say begun the autopsy on Richter, and Khan cuts him off, and he's just like, I know what she's begun. And I like that they got me to know that without ever saying the word autopsy. It was a neat bit just of character exchange.
Yeah, and it being a sensitive subject and a little taboo, and Khan is feeling guilty, and Ivan's figured it out. Like, there's so much good drama in this, without being like clear cut. That's what this show does so well. Is like they don't just tell you what's happening, like they show you what's happening, and they make you work a little bit to put the story together.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I liked about it.
And the drama is fun to follow. Like, yeah, like we know like a lot of the fates of these people, but this is why I don't like the criticism of like, well, all prequels suck because you know what's going to happen. It's like, yeah, like a lot of stories, you know what's going to happen towards the end, but like, like when I watch an episode of Strange New Worlds, I know Pike isn't going to die, but I can still like enjoy the show. But anyways, I just bring that up to say, like, here's some examples of some of the riveting things, but like, Ivan, I have no idea what kind of bad thing he might do, but he's definitely dangerous. I feel like when shit hits the fan, he could be a guy who breaks bad and messes some things up. So I'm listening, kind of nervous for like, okay, when's the shoe gonna drop? Things with like Ursula and Marla's relationship, how they've been very I get more from Ursula, but yeah, it's not been a very friendly relationship, and even in the beginning of this episode you have those comments from Ursula to Marla about like sorry to interrupt your beauty sleep or whatever. When she was asking for help, she's asking her like, can you draw the what the Ceti ill looked like that you saw on Richter and Sylvana, and Marla being like, I liked her comeback where she's like, you can ask for my help or insult me, but you can't do both. But then they kind of bond in this episode, and they're like by the end of it, Ursula is like performing the ceremony for Marla's wedding. So
I think it was in that scene or some shortly thereafter when maybe after Marla went out with her on her own, that Ursula pointedly calls her Marla and not McGivers.
Yep.
And
I didn't notice that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I remember it now.
She hesitated a bit before she said it, like she had to try it out, which again, great voice acting. And I bet that was built into the script too, like a little pause before it.
And the kid Paulo, when he comes by the med bay, he brings them a Ceti ill that he'd been on like ill patrol with Ivan. And he's such like a teenager. Like he shows up, he's like really short. He's like, I'm just done. I'm ready to go to bed. Not very professional, but
you know how Ivan like had puzzled out kind of what had happened and that there'd been deaths and stuff. He shows up and he's like, oh, what are you doing here, Marla or whatever? And she says something to him. I forget what it was. And he's like, okay, good night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's like, are you
so
sick?
Done.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, no.
Like, no.
Right.
And he
so
yawns.
Concise. Yeah, he's like, okay, I don't give a shit.
He yawns when he says that. He's like yawning, like, oh, okay, whatever. And like, he's like going off to bed.
Yeah, this is later in the episode, but I love that they included stuff like that because it really shows Marla becoming like part of the group. Like Paolo is just like, hey, okay, whatever.
Right.
It's so cute to see them like really meshing together.
Yeah, and she said last week
Marla.
She gets along, and Dave, you commented on that she gets along better with the young augments than the adults. So even though like Paulo like stole stuff out of her cargo pod to build his scanner, he's still kind of polite to her in person.
Yeah.
So
I think part of that, it sort of makes sense that basically the long timers are ultra loyal to Khan and probably all in a way jealous of anyone who gets his attention if they don't feel that the person has earned it yet. McGivers hasn't like fought with them, fought alongside them. I mean, and but the younger kids probably have just seen less of that. Maybe haven't seen much fighting at all, and so they're not gonna be as predisposed to judge her and stuff. That was
even says that in this episode. She's like, your loyalty is only 2 months old.
Oh yeah, I love that scene. She said she's like, your loyalty is a matter of necessity. She's like, oh yeah, well maybe you're just loyal because it keeps you alive.
Exactly.
Which is almost like both a threat and like a knock on her. Like she's like, oh, I don't even believe it's real loyalty. I think it's just you just trying to stay alive. And by the way, that's because we want to kill you.
Taylor, you were keeping me on track a second ago. There is the later scene with Paulo bringing in the Ceti ill, but this first scene with him here near the beginning, that's actually after Marla draws the Ceti ill for Ursula, and like they decide like, well, we're gonna have to like go like capture one to learn anything about it. She goes to Paulo to get the scanner from him. And the interesting thing there is that when she like finds Paulo, he's kind of like startled and surprised, and he's like, "Did it explode?" So like this guy who's like looking at scans of Ceti Alpha 6, he seems to be convinced it's about to blow up.
Oh, you know what? I think when he said that, I think I interpreted it as like they were talking about his tech. I thought that meant that he kind of MacGyvered stuff together not
MacGyver.
but yeah, but like
That's
MacGyver, like the
confusing.
TV show guy, stuff, and then it tended to blow up and fall apart. Yeah, he was talking about Steady Alpha 6 though.
That's
That
funny
makes
because I also thought he was talking about the scanner, like that he was like, "Oh shit, did the thing that I made like blow up?" But
yeah,
that
that's
is
funny.
interesting because he was like scanning the planet, thinking it
It's
would
true.
blow up. So
Maybe I'm wrong then, but just what all this MacGyver's talk made me remember that today, day of recording, October 3rd, is Madeline Rue's, or Madeline, I guess is how you say it, Rue's birthday, but she was the actor who played MacGyver's in the
Oh,
original series. And she actually worked with Montalban before that in Bonanza. I think they were husband and wife the old Western show Bonanza, and then she
oh,
showed up at some point on Fantasy Island. So I guess her and Montalban worked together multiple times.
a connection.
Yeah.
I noticed that they called. I may be cutting ahead to a Gornag, but that they specifically called Paolo's device a dino scanner, which is the thing that the Reliant, I think, was using to scan Ceti Alpha for life. I Googled it real quick, and I was like, that's what came up, not this episode, but the Reliant's use of it. So I was just like, oh, that's cool. Another little tie-in to Trek 2 that I hadn't caught.
Yeah, and I actually had like forgotten that was a thing, but it came up. I think it came up one time in the Next Generation, the Dino Scanner.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure
But
exactly what it is, but I know it's a very specific type of scanning.
yeah, something checking for life forms clearly, like probably an elaborate thing for doing that. But it's not as important as the other piece of technology, which is going to turn up in this scene, which is a phaser, or shortly.
Yeah, that's what MacGyver's uses to stun the ill. And this is the point where Ursula and Marla bond is like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll keep your phaser a secret, and and Ursula tells Marla like what happened with Sylvana. I guess just because like, okay, I'm a scientist. If we're going to work together and solve this, we need like some transparency. We need to share information. So this is what happened to Richter and Sylvana, but keep it on the down low. Khan doesn't want us talking about this. So that's
gosh.
like they both have given the other one a secret. So like our head of state and Jeffrey Epstein, they knew each other's secrets. And I guess
Oh no!
that's the way that people like
Yeah,
form trust.
Ursula, yeah, and Marla were earning trust in this episode with each other, like bouncing back and forth. I did want to bring up something I liked in the scene when Marla just takes off, like, okay, we're going to go hunting for Ceti eels. And Mado was kind of like, all right, let's go. And Ursula is like, no, 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 you cannot because you're pregnant. And like goes herself. But like that's like an example of like something with pregnancy trope I'm scared about with Marla. But like I also really it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me because I also enjoyed seeing Ursula and Mado have this conversation because Mado was like, next time you're getting pregnant, like I don't want to miss out on the fun just because you want me to keep safe, you know.
Yeah, it became
So
a playful sparring thing for them, and
yeah,
it made them like a kind of again endearing as a couple. Um,
exactly.
and not just it is forbidden for the pregnant woman to do anything.
Well, maybe
Right.
that's another testament of why it's good to have these queer relationships in our stories because it kind of reduces the same played out scenes and conversations that we've all gone through 100 times in stories. But like, oh yeah, like the brave man has to be protective of his pregnant wife. It's like, yeah, we've done that 100 times. It's a little
Yeah.
bit more interesting when you have it be two women instead of like the
Yeah.
In
same
fact, the
dynamic
dynamic
of a man and a woman.
the dynamic is actually three women in that scene.
Yeah.
You've got
Yeah.
the paired couple, and you've got one
Rogue.
growing ally at least. So it
Yeah.
seems of them making
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But I
think that
guess
was also a really important choice too to have Ursula go protect Marla. Like she could have totally just let Marla go, you know? But she's like, shit, like that's Khan's woman. Like if she goes off on her own and then Khan finds out, I let her go. Like I
But
feel like there's a lot of internal struggle with Ursula a little bit, who's like, oh, no, I have to go protect her actually because that would mean more
do you think,
to our community.
do you think she was doing it just to protect her? Because I also kind of got the impression that she was like, oh, that's impressive that this chick is, bold enough to go do this on her own. She's like, and now she's like, I want to go with her. Like, now I've got a measure of respect, and it's not just fearing Khan's reprisal. It's, I want to see more of what she's about now.
What she can do. Yeah. I think both can be true in this case.
I think so too.
She's a little bit like, oh shit, like I gotta protect Marla because of Khan, but she's also like, wow, this is the first time I've been impressed that she's like showing a lot of leadership and bravery, and like as someone who's a non-augment with like less strength or whatever, like less capabilities than like Ursula and her, peers, I think that does impress her. She's like, oh, well, this person who's like, I don't want to say like lesser, but I'm sure that's how they feel, is like Marla's like lesser than them, is like actually exceeding their expectations.
Yeah, first she has this good art, and then she's next thing you know, she's phasering eels.
She's diverse in her interests.
That's right.
So, they have an eel captured, and I guess, like, they're like, okay, these Ceti eels are going to be a big deal. We really need to figure these out. And then we get, like, a series of meetings or conversations. But I guess, like, Khan calls, like a Ceti eel meeting with, like, the important people, with Ursula and Ivan, and try to figure things out. And then they have then there's a private meeting between Khan and Marla, where Marla's like, hey, we need to talk about like your people. They've had a lot of recent losses, and they might benefit from some group rituals to grieve. And then Khan has like this big bonfire meeting and gives like a speech to everyone. So we can just kind of talk about that stuff. But like the Ceti eel meeting, where I guess Ursula is explaining. And Mado, we actually have like Mado doing some cool science stuff. She was in charge of like growing the crops, and she's also the one who has figured out the pesticide that they're going to use, which it's not a chemical or anything; it's a physical thing. This diatomaceous earth. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess it is. Like I didn't read the Wikipedia page. Yeah, like I saw that it had one. I didn't have time to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, basically like they're going to line all of their structures with sharp particles that will cut up any bugs that try to infiltrate. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a little bit of that novelistic detail, I think, there. Mm-hmm. That was pretty neat. And rooted in some real science, too, which is cool.
Yeah, and Khan starts the bug patrols to, like, every night. It sounds like they have, like, a team out there just looking for those things and stabbing them.
Yeah, initially it feels like they're kind of getting it under control. Like, well, they're dangerous, but we can counter it.
Yeah, they have a plan.
And I'm curious what y'all think about the private conversation when Khan and Marla talk after that meeting, just the two of them. Khan says that he's unaccustomed to having a partner with as much. It sounded like with like as much agency and independence as Marla. He's like, I'm not used to this. I just say things. I expect people to agree to them.
It seems clear that Khan is both sometimes put off by that, and then that's exactly what he likes about her, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, this is somebody who can challenge me, and maybe and then that allows him to be like, oh, well, maybe I can be wrong about some things too. I like this conversation.
Yeah, he has like that culture of these people who will do anything he says. And so I think he's surprised, and it piques his interest when someone disagrees or adds something that he hadn't considered before, just because of that. Like he's so used to, like you said, like people being, just assuming him as leader and stuff.
Now,
and
he did not like it when Hugo did it. I don't know if that's because Hugo had not shared a bed with him.
Yeah,
that's gonna make a difference. But also, I think Hugo was like abrasive. He was like calling him out publicly, and she's having a private conversation with him. She's aware of kind of in this of his, his stubbornness, and she's willing to kind of work with it. Later on, she'll say, when she's talking about some of their rituals, like calling her Khan's woman, and that she's like, well, she kind of comes to like it a little bit once she's warmed up to Khan. But she also says, you meet people where they are. And she's talking about trying to work with the community in that case. But yeah, unlike Hugo, she tries to meet Khan sort of halfway and acknowledge the way that he's been living.
Yeah. She's
so that's a big difference.
A gentler approach. And also, I think it still reminds me of that quote. I think the first time I heard it was like in every Raymond. They say like man is the head of the house, but the woman is the neck who can turn the head anyway. And like it definitely is like oh yeah, sure, the man may be stubborn as hell, but like the woman can start like having these conversations with them and like planting the seeds for change. And like that's something that Marla brings up I think in 2 or 3 episodes so far, where she's talking about customs changing, and she kind of like plants a seed, and she's like, we'll circle back to this, but like I think this is something you should consider, and as someone who's also a historian who like probably loves cataloged funerals and marriages and things like that, like ceremony, like having her say like, hey Khan, like we really need to have like rituals for our group because it's important for history. Like as a historian, this is something that's important. And I love though that we do get a little bit of like this immediate defensiveness from Khan. Like his ego is always going to be there. But I feel like it's very realistic, is like men don't really like to be told what to do. And like I think it's really cool to see like Marla introduce this idea to him and him say like, okay, I'll think about it, and then literally the next scene we see that he's implemented it. So I think like, I don't know, it's just a very real feeling to me of seeing like this person who's very passionate about history and also very passionate about Khan, like kind of like use her expertise to also like guide this person along this like I mean, like, first attempt, like, his first attempt at being, like, Khan over these people,
What's interesting is the way she's doing it, she's asking him to sort of embrace the possibility of some religious tones, some spiritual talk to his people, which is not something she's particularly associated with. Like, I don't think that was ever much big part of her character, but she does probably understand like grief and stuff on a subtler level than he does. He doesn't want ceremony. He calls it magical thinking. It gives the episode its title, and he's like, no Jesus stuff here. But what he does is he kind of finds a way to do it in the scene to come without directly invoking souls or anything like that. But he does talk about like their shared grief and that he, and remembering these people, he's, like, we'll go on to say that they were like, we'll always remember them as like the foundation of what we built. So there's a sense of, longevity of, immortality in that sense, but he's not like, they're going to go to heaven. He won't go there.
I really liked that so much in this because it is just about the grief and the loss of what you could have had and the memories you had and like who that person was to you, instead of it being like, oh, they've lived on in the afterlife and you'll see them again one day. Like, it's a very realistic approach. And I think that calls back to the conversation that Joachim and Marla had in the previous episode, where she asked him like, well, what beliefs do y'all have? And he's like, well, Khan is our belief, So I think it's interesting to like get this rendition of like, oh, okay, this is how Khan wants to handle it, but also like Marla has guided him here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I feel like it's the kind of the finest hour for both characters.
Mm-hmm. And he's still very much like the demagogue in all of this, like in his big speech that he gives at the bonfire to like, rally everyone and get, boost morale. But he is saying, we have a new enemy to go after. We have to stop these bugs. And he's like, I look into all of your eyes, and I see that these words ring true in your heart, and that you're with me, and you're ready to go be some bug killing sons of bitches with me. And it's like, oh yeah, this is why he's able to do this, because like he's still doing like the tyrant demagogue playbook, is like, oh, I'm gonna have to get all these people to unite around like a common enemy. And like they occasionally do remind us of these things that like this is actually far from ideal, like, but like when people say like, oh, we believe in Khan, that's our belief, when young Joachim says that. So they're constantly reminding us like, yeah, like this is a fun story to explore, but it's not an ideal society. So it doesn't romanticize it too much that it stops to remind us what it actually is, so I appreciate that.
It is very clear that like Khan is, I don't want to say he is emotionally manipulating his people, but in a way, like if you kind of screen it a little bit, he is using this grieving process as like an action, like a call to action. And so it's almost like still a little bit
that's a great point.
Propulsant. Yeah. Like he's like, I'm so great. Like, look at me, how good I am at rallying my people together. Like, like it's a little bit still egotistical the way that he does it. Like the way like it's not just about the grief. Like it's not just about their loss and discussing the people. It's like, okay, and now we have a common enemy, like Stephen just said, and let's go like deal with it.
About like midway through the funeral speech, there's some repetition where he's like, I grieve for them, or I will remember them, and like everybody kind of repeats it like in a ceremonial way, and that's like midway through. But at the end, they're chanting his name.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
They're chanting. They're like Khan.
Yeah.
Or his title, I should say.
It does seem, in a way, to boost their spirits, but it also still feels like wrong, like it's good. I don't know exactly how to put my words into but like you're like happy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a scene that like overall, like, well, because the scene showed Khan doing, following what Marla said. It's just that when you think about it, there is some manipulation in there too. There's some guile, but overall, I left it. I walked away from that scene, or I stopped listening to that scene, thinking that Khan has impressed me too, and that was a nice thing to do. I was drawn into his world,
and that's such good writing, because it's so believable to go from that grieving to that call for action, like so natural progression in that speech. Like you almost kind of don't realize that that's where it's gone the first time. It's so good. Like the writing is exceptional in this show.
Have you seen Battlestar Galactica yet, Taylor? Have you watched that?
Not yet.
Father, I'll say this without spoiling anything. In the miniseries when Adama rallies the crew. So say we all. Yeah. It's a big kind of moment at the end of the miniseries. It's noteworthy that scene ends with them chanting that. They're not chanting Adama, even though he was the one who rallied them. Khan kind of does the flip of that. He's like, yes, there's encouragement in there. There's a bonding thing, but it ends with him as the big victor.
Yeah, and that's a great point, and that's why I think something I commented on previously, but like Khan and his followers, like they're not a movement, they're a cult, as like some people are like commenting in our audience about, another real world parallel. But I see that reflected in the head of our country that I mentioned earlier, because he's a pedophile with Jeffrey Epstein. I shouldn't have said that word. I just got this video demonetized on YouTube, but that's okay. It's still true. And his whole fellowship is not a movement. It's a cult. It's like like people will rally behind him because he's the glue holding it all together. But without him, it's gonna fall apart. And that's not sustainable. That's like your actual like political revolutions, your actual like movements can't be focused on a single individual, because then like without that person, you snuff out the entire fire by just putting out that one part. You just cut that off, and then the rest dies.
You're not a group about ideas. You're a group about a person.
Yes,
and it ends up drifting. It can dangerously drift towards being a cult of personality, like a literal cult of personality.
Yeah. And, that's another thing. That's another part of like the interesting drama on this colony is like, yeah, what is going to happen? Like, what if like Khan's, we just saw it when he was separated for 2 days. That's all it took, like 48 hours, and it almost like came out like Ivan was ready to go crazy, and who knows how people would react to that, and yeah, it's a very non-ideal way to run a society.
But we do find out that there's some immediate positive effects. In addition, like the people get together. Marla is now invited to councils. She says everything changes for her, and the romantic connection with Khan solidifies.
Yeah, after this campfire speech, she spends more time in his tent than her cargo pod. She's always welcomed. This becomes like a nightly thing. Every night they meet around the bonfire. And
they move into a permanent structure together, she says.
Right. Yeah, they build which I guess we see like the remains of some of that in Wrath of Khan. Or at least that's all that seem to have survived the coming calamity. And this is the part that they're listening to when Marla is giving her historian log, talking about, this is the night that things changed. That's when it cuts to Lear and Tuvok listening to the audio recordings. And I like it was like, it's Tuvok from Voyager with Lear saying things to him like, oh, you're really no fun at all. And Tuvok replying just like, not as a rule, no. Like,
I loved this scene.
Yeah.
I found Tuvok a little bit a little authoritarian in it with some of this stuff. When she mentions just kind of casually something about, she's like, hey, isn't it a little kind of creepy that this ship, you can just ask the computer where anybody is and it'll say? And he basically says, well, as long as you're not getting up to anything you shouldn't, what's the problem? And I'm like, that's a hugely authoritarian take.
But keep in mind, this is Ensign Tuvok. He's fresh out of the academy, so
sure. No, I felt it fit. I actually, and Tuvok also says some things that are admirable in it, and decides to at least give her the time of day when she's requesting access to that. She wants access to classified material from Kirk's log, which is like the only way to find out what's the deal with like the scans of Ceti, of the Ceti Alpha system. Why is there seemingly some discrepancies? Is anybody at fault? And she kind of, persuades Tuvok that it might be worthy of, he says, I'll consider it or something, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was fitting to have like this young Tuvok. He does have like that naive trust of authority. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Security Officer Tuvok on Voyager would have answered in quite the same way. He probably would have said mostly the same thing, except he would have acknowledged like there is a reasonable concern of abuse of power with surveillance or like something like that. But he wouldn't have been quite as naive and trusting. So. And I just like it showing that, like, oh yeah, they understand, like, they're writing this is younger Tuvok, fresh out of the academy.
This was, this is a show where I love the flashbacks, but I also love the interstitials with those characters. Lear and Tuvok's, the sort of, they reach a little bit of a detente. They're taking some jabs at each other, but there's a little detente, and it reflects kind of, I think, what's going on with Khan and Marla. That was just a nice thing. You can do that kind of thing with a story without making a big, heavy-handed point about it, but I think it was intentional.
And they explain here that Kirk's private logs, not when the characters on the show are like, captain's log, blah, 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 but, sometimes they're like captain's private log, blah, 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 blah. And so they're saying that, like, okay, the official logs don't have the deets on what exactly Kirk was doing, dropping off Khan on Ceti Alpha 5, but his personal logs have something. Those have all been sealed, we can't access them, but a captain like Sulu can get to those. Lear asks Tuvok, can you please ask Sulu if we can access the late Captain Kirk's personal logs and find out what exactly happened in the aftermath of Space Seed.
I think it'll be actually kind of. I don't think this is going to happen, but just a little, when you said that. What if we do get like a little snippet from William Shatner as Kirk, like in this, as like his.
Oh, that'd be
log
cool.
ends up coming up.
What if they have Kirk and Sulu talk to each other somehow, but they never had to record Takei and Shatner at the same time, so it could work.
Could pull that off. I would love it if they
had.
had a surprise guest star like that. Like, obviously the show, the writing is what you're there for, and the voice acting, they've already got all the main stuff they need. But if they did a little something like that, with their good writing, hell yeah.
I think if they did have Shatner
and Paul
the
Wesley, I'm sorry, it could also be Paul Wesley that records it. It could be. They have two Shatners, or I'm sorry, they have two Kirks right now, so they could go either way.
Yeah, they could.
Whoever's
They
cheapest.
could mix and match with like Strange New Worlds actors and TOS actors, but no one's ever done that. But they could do that at some point. I don't think that's gonna happen. I've thought of that as a possibility, and that would be cool. But I just feel like if they had Shatner on this, they would have already like promoted it as like Shatner being on it.
Yeah.
Fair.
If by chance he's on it and they kept it secret, then I'd be like, damn, y'all, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's like another reason I was thinking maybe it's Paul Wesley and not William Shatner, because then,
easier to cover.
A little bit low key, yeah. But I think either way, it would be really cool to hear some of Kirk's like straight up log, like how we get like Marla's logs and Khan's logs and Dr. Lear creating her own logs. So if they decided to, that'd be really cool.
That is one thing that when they've had the computer's voice on this audio drama, I don't know who they used for that, but they obviously don't have Majel Barrett. I really wish that they would have used Alex Kapp, the woman who does the computer voice in Strange New Worlds, because I think she's a really good almost Majel, and just that's like, and I was like, oh man, like she probably would have been affordable for that, but yeah, whatever, it's fine, doesn't matter. But
I do suspect in the end that George Takei will play the role of the top authority figure. And if there's kind of a final reflection in the end, I suspect he might be the one to deliver it.
Yeah, he's the Starfleet captain of this show, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that we're not dealing with just Khan's ego in this show. We also have real life actor egos.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh my.
Oh my.
That was very important to George Takei that Sulu became a captain in the movies.
Well, I mean, deserves. It's fine.
Yeah. It was cool because, like, it was a thing that I got to see explored at least in the books back in the day, even if the movies weren't doing it. And so I was always a fan. I think everybody always liked Sulu, and that was a cool follow through.
I was one of the fans that in the late 90s I was part of that letter writing campaign to we want a Star Trek Excelsior show. Like we wanted that to be like the follow up to Voyager, to be like Sulu and Tuvok on the Excelsior, but we got Star Trek Enterprise instead, and that was fine. But
we're getting a little bit of it here, a little touch of it.
Yeah, I'm getting it as an audio drama, as the framing device to the Khan backstory. But
they're like, so 30 years too late, no big deal.
Yeah. So then, like, there's kind of like after that Tuvok Tuvok Lear scene, we cut back to the flashback, and 4 months have passed.
Yeah, we're on day 119. Ceti Alpha 6 is blowing up at 6 months, so we're getting.
Oh, I forgot we knew exactly when that was. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're like.
Khan says it. Yeah.
We're less than 3 months away from that.
That's rough because, Marla's update is like this very optimistic thing. And she's like, the colony has permanent structures now. There's gates to protect us. The patrols are working. And I think this is where she says that Khan's people don't fear him. They love him.
Yeah. So this is the scene when Marla is in sickbay. And they don't spell it out at first. Ursa is just like, oh yeah, looks like you were correct. And then that's when Paulo walks in with the captured Ceti ill And he's like, "Hey, Marla, you sick?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm going to drop off this eel and go to bed because I'm like 17 and I just got off work and I don't really care anymore." But that's when they were like, "Oh, look, there are some male Ceti eels." Taylor, this made me think of your parents' bees. But like when they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a colony with a queen, and all of the ones that we've killed so far, those are the other females because they're workers. They're like the drones, and all the males do is breed with the queen and then die." And that's
to
like,
be clear, my parents aren't killing the worker bees. He's talking about the ills.
Right. But like your parents and like they have a beehive now. They just started making their own honey and stuff. But that was,
you have to know that hierarchy stuff to do it right.
But with the male bees, their process, like the male bees in the hive, like they do something with the honey when they're babies, but then they breed with the queen and then die. So their life cycle is honey nut Cheerio, because like when they die, it's like Cheerio. So.
Oh my!
That was Taylor's parents taught that to me. So if y'all don't like it, blame them.
Sure, I like it. I mean, it's good.
I'll have to tell them to watch this episode just for their contribution.
you get a little nod.
Yeah. If they want the full context, they have to listen to 4 episodes of an audio drama and then also watch an episode of TV from 1967 and a movie from 1982. And then
I'm sure they're going to want that full context.
Yeah.
But the relevant thing, of course, is that this means that they think there is a vulnerable but probably dangerous queen that is the source of all of this. Which, by the way, I never thought they would go into, like, I don't know, Ceti eel life cycle stuff. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna see them kill people. Of course, that's built into the lore. But I was like, oh, they actually have thought this through and staged what would on a show be quite a big action sequence around it. Later,
yeah, I kind of do feel like it was a little. Oh yeah, this is kind of trite. It's like, oh, it has like a queen, like in Aliens, and it's gonna be like a big boss fight against the queen, and then, but
no, I had that same thought too, Fathery. But I think, in a way, it's like you don't want to overcomplicate it with like hard sci-fi kind of gibberish about like complicated insect colonies. It is one of those where the kind of more important thing is kind of what comes from this, the concern about, Marla doesn't want Khan to go on this dangerous mission because she has a child coming soon. And then there's also the choice she makes to take a risk and be there herself. Like, that's what's important about it, not so much the life cycle. The life cycle is ultimately a little bit irrelevant. It's just what comes of it.
Mm. But I did think that the actual like battle against the queen, like it was really cool how you just like the storytelling, they were able to convey so much with the sound effects and with the lines of dialogue we get. But like at first when Khan is like, like blades only, but then like later he says open fire, and you're like, oh, he was like conserving ammo until like the queen was out, and you can hear Ivan get excited with the flamethrower when he's like, ha ha, fire in the hole, and I guess he's like shooting fire into the bug hole, but
it was fairly entertaining. If anybody who played Team Fortress 2 by chance, the video game, he sounded like the heavy weapons guy in there.
Did he have a Russian accent? Yeah.
Yep, he did.
Yeah, that was just kind of like generic Russian brute is an archetype. Just be like, da! I love to shoot things, But as the TOS fanboy that I am, though, I really loved the TOS phaser getting its special shout out moment. It was like the only weapon that could bring down the boss. It was the only weapon that could slay the queen. And Marla McGivers is going to be like, look, they really do show her Starfleet badassery in this. And I always thought the idea of like doing this con story on Ceti Alpha 5, Marla McGivers would be key to making that story still feel Star Trek and be Star Trek. But, they talk about her having like all the good Starfleet training, like they're like, oh, you know about bugs and science and stuff. We thought you were a historian. She's like, I still went to Starfleet Academy. Like they do a pretty good job preparing us to go be outer space badasses.
She gets to
basic training.
Yeah.
Yeah, she gets to like quite a bit of agency in this. They show you that a person who is like just a historian is like that's so much more in Starfleet. And yeah, it's honestly, I have liked in Strange New Worlds how they have expanded on the character of Nurse Chapel from her original appearances on the show. But I think in some ways, this is kind of doing a better job by like gravitating. I mean, yes, there is her, her romance is part of it, but I feel like she's kind of doing more stuff. I guess they've done pretty good with Nurse Chapel. It's somewhat similar, taking a character who was flat in the '60s show, maybe somewhat progressive for the time, but not a lot to her. And they've in both cases have kind of shown shown their skills, shown different emotional facets of them. It's really cool. I think it's a good model to follow for these kind of stories that flash back like that.
Yeah, I pointed that out a little bit last week. I think I compared the Marla, I guess, character expansion that we're getting here is similar to what they've done with Chapel on Strange New Worlds, but it's just nice to see. It's kind of refreshing to see because we all agree. I think that these women characters were underwritten in the '60s,
sure,
and so it was good to see them written better now.
She got to based on the sound effects, I assume that this was as gory where it filmed as the oh my gosh, what's the Next Generation episode with the bugs?
Oh, Conspiracy. Yeah,
Conspiracy. Yeah, like I heard the bug splatter, I think, at a certain point. It was like she had that trained on it for like a few seconds, and then I heard an explosion and some guts.
Nice.
Well,
I loved Marla. Okay, this is like one of those things. Like, I'm thinking, oh, Marla's pregnant at this time. Khan knows. He's being overprotective. Like, they've already talked about this. He's like, are you feeling okay? Like, he's genuinely worried about her. Like, kind of how Ursula is feeling about Mendo at this point.
Because this is like, when he finds out, is like after the bug slaying.
Right before. And, like, she's not invited to go on the bug hunt because she's pregnant. She's in the same, like, she kind of grouped with Mendo, Like, you can't come. Like, you got to be safe,
My heart sank just a little bit when that was the main topic. And then I was worried. I was like, oh no, is she going to just go out? And I couldn't remember the timeline of things. I was like, is she going to interfere and get killed? Oh no, that would not be good either. And then, carry on. That's not what happened.
Yeah, but when pregnant Marla like goes, and she's already said to Khan, like, I feel very protective right now of what I love. Like, her showing up to basically annihilate this massive Ceti queen. I got emotional. Like, the first time I watched it, I cried a little bit. I was like, wow, like, she's so hardcore, and like this, like, I don't know if it's like hormonal or if it's just Marla. I feel like it's a combination, but like this like level of protection of her and just being like, I don't care if he finds out about my phaser. Like, I have to protect my man, and like I have to like, and I think that's such a good switch up, Like, it's so common that like the man like saves the woman, and so it's really cool to see like a pregnant woman like protect her people. So that's what gives me a little bit of hope. Like, I know I mentioned a lot of trepidation in the beginning about like pregnant Marla, but this made me feel like, okay, she's still a person, and like she has a lot of like emotional maturity and like needs, and she's still a person underneath like her pregnancy. That's what I'm just scared about, is like her like losing that individuality. But I think this was a really clear like, care for like her people, and like this need to protect and like, contribute to her society. So I'm excited for more, but this made me really emotional the first time I listened to it, like seeing or hearing Marla protect her people, her family.
Jill in the audience wrote Marla as Mama Bear. I'll take it.
That's a great way to summarize it. I wish I could be more concise with what I say, but yeah, Mama Bear Marla. I love her.
Yeah.
But I think about that all the time. Like, that's one of my favorite types of characters in fictions, is like the That's one of the most like heroic figures I can imagine as like the protective mother, the Ellen Ripleys and Sarah Connors. When Admiral Janeway on I love the Voyager A design in Prodigy. I think it's so much better than the original Voyager. When the Voyager A and Admiral Janeway come down on Wesley Crusher's ziggurat thing with all the traveler stuff with but like she's like so powerful and so badass, and just like you see her and you're like, oh, she's coming to save the kids, and you can't help but just like get goosebumps on your arms, like cheer for Janeway. It's like, yeah, I love like that protective mother character.
Well, and that's something like I identify as like a villager and not as a mother, as I still want to protect kids. Like I still have that feeling. I still want to like protect my community and like the people I love. And so it's so cool to like see like the woman in that role and not just another man in that role, you know. So I like it more that she's pregnant, but also I like it so much that she's a woman, like in this like really commonly male trope, you know.
And with an old school phaser sound effect, no.
Yes.
And so cool, yeah. Comes in blazing.
And I guess let's talk about our ending. We have the conversation between Ursula and Khan about like, you were keeping this phaser all along, and he actually seems pretty cool.
Marla and Khan.
Or I'm sorry, between Marla and Khan, and yeah, he actually seems pretty cool with everything when he finds out about that, and I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool to talk about, you know, like the Prime Directive a little bit, and you know, Marla's justification of why she didn't tell anyone is like, well, you know, technically not supposed to share technology with pre-warp civilizations, and you can debate if these augments count as a pre-warp civilization. Right. I guess
Khan wanted to debate her, incidentally. Like he kind of wants to, not hardcore, but he's pressing her a little bit.
That is consistent though with Star Trek precedent in the Paradise Syndrome in the original series, when Kirk got hit on the head and thought he was a Native American and married Miramami. But, you know, like in that episode, it's like, oh, these are Native Americans from Earth, but we can't reveal ourselves to them because it would violate the Prime Directive. They don't name drop Prime Directive in that episode, I don't believe, but, you know, basically they're honoring it. And then the same thing in the Church Planet episode of Discovery, New Eden. You know, those were people descendant from World War III era humans in the 21st century. And Pike is like, oh, the non-interference directive, General Order 1, so... It is consistent, but I feel like Marla, like, no, this is one of her, this is like the communicator. This was like one of her trump cards that she was keeping up her sleeve, you know, but yeah, he seems pretty cool about it. Then they have like their marriage ceremony, their ritual, you know, it was still more of a culture building. I liked Ursula officiating because it's like, oh, cool. Like they respect like the village doctor is also like the, like, you know, like the priest at the wedding is like that. They have a reverence for this role in their society, and that's kind of cool. And
that she's kind of like accepted Marla throughout this episode.
For sure.
They've bonded. And so it's kind of like the only person that makes sense to officiate because she knows Marla the best that we know of.
You don't think Ivan could have officiated?
Right. Ivan would have been like, he would have stood up in the back and be like, I object.
See, I didn't like them giving Ivan the line when you know, Ursula's explaining, like, all the males do is breed with the queen, and then Ivan is like, why was I not born an insect? And it's like, Ivan, I know you're trying to hide it, but we all can tell that you're so gay for Khan. It's like, you might as well be wearing a sign around your neck,
that
you know?
That fits, though, man. You know, thou dost protest too much.
Yeah.
He's got to show, like, he's like, I'm so straight.
You know, like we would hope that, you know, in the 23rd century, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But he's from Earth's past. He's a 20. We don't know if these are the 1990 augments or the 2020 augments, but either way, he's from a more homophobic time. I'm still, or maybe he hasn't figured out why he likes Khan so much. Maybe he doesn't understand why he's so loyal to him. But come on, it's there.
I liked Khan's comment about, you know, like he presses Marla a little bit, and he's like, he kind of sees like the, you know, Prime Directive as a little kind of imperialistic, a little culturally manipulative, and and he's like, "Oh, are you going to be that way with our kid too?" And if y'all are right, and that and Fathery, that notion pans out that Lear could be their kid, then this conversation takes on extra significance. The Khan wondering if their kid will grow up Starfleet values. But Marla does worry a little bit about the world they're bringing the kid into. And earlier she mentioned that Khan's that she had some concern that he could be making himself vulnerable with some of these moments of showing some vulnerability in general, like that could make him more like dangerously vulnerable within their kind of very tight-knit warrior tribe. So I think these are some interesting things to kind of end on, some questions. And by the way, the scene where he does go down on his knee to propose to her, it's like really sweet. The way he does it. He's like, this is, you said that, maybe you were right that some rituals are worth preserving. And he's like, I believe this is how this one is performed, or however.
Right.
And then, really, really cool.
Yeah, I liked that a lot too, that he's kind of honoring Marla in that sense of like, oh, she's a historian, she'll appreciate this, It doesn't have to be like our own thing. This can still be like ceremonial, like a throwback to the past for her. But there are some red flags for me in this. Like, he doesn't propose to her till he learns that she's pregnant. So like that to me is kind of like a little bit irritating, because I'm like, man, like, like you're just doing this. Is it performative, right?
Right.
And
it fits a
like,
sort of possessive kind of paternalistic approach. He's like, oh, well, this would be the right thing to do. I need to cement my role in this, now.
Right. But I do like that in the previous episode, we established like the L word between them, or love between them, and that in this one they corroborate that, like, talking about her moving in with him, and like there's a natural buildup, so it does feel more realistic, but that does throw a little bit for me, like Khan proposing to her only after he's found out she's pregnant. But yeah, I really did appreciate him going on one knee, and like I think that's I don't know why, but that like really surprised me, because Khan is just so egotistical and like full of himself, and I just feel like I didn't expect him to like drop the question and be, I guess it feels very sincere to me, and I think that's what makes me skeptical. That's what I hear, the Dave voice in my head, like don't get too enamored with this, But I was actually,
it's a pretty good knife's edge to be
that.
on, though. Drama wise, it's a really good knife's edge.
Yeah.
Well, anything else on the episode?
I hope they enjoy their next 2 months.
Yeah, they got, like, I think it's about like 2.5 months, but yeah, it ain't much time. Like the 6 months on Ceti Alpha 5 that are pre-calamity, like we're past the halfway point of that on episode 4. So tick-tock goes the clock.
That's what makes me scared about the pregnancy trope of it's not going to be Dr. Lear after all. Because if Marla is just now announcing her pregnancy and we know that she's got like 3 months, like,
well, she might live longer than that. We don't know when she's gonna die, but we know that we know that Ceti Alpha 6 is gonna blow up and make life a lot harder. Okay. After 6 months.
Fine, I will keep an open mind, but that's like my like alarm bells going off, because I'm like, oh, she's gonna die pregnant and make it just like man pain.
Yeah, and then
he's like, I must get real revenge. He's like, remember Ceti Alpha 5 when I told you I would take you down earlier? Well, now I'll really take you down.
Exactly. Dave gets it. Yeah.
That's another good thing to remind people of, is that after we have finished this audio drama series of deep dive discussions, we want to go back and take a look at Space Seed and do a Tex-Trek backtracking retrospective on Space Seed. And then also do a show that would be The Wrath of Khan Revisited, where we go and we go through all of the Khan scenes of Wrath of Khan. Because, like, this shit doesn't really, like, affect, you know, like, Kirk and Spock. They're doing, like, you know, it's not going to recontextualize anything there. Maybe a little bit, but yeah, I want to, like, go through, like, all of the Khan scenes in Wrath of Khan and talk about them and what we think and feel about those scenes now, having all of this new context.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a cool idea. I was worried about this early on. I was like, oh, please don't do stupid stuff, so that when I'm watching Wrath of Khan, which I love, I'll be like, oh man, yeah, that now I know that, I'll remember some stupid thing that they did in this. Anyway, they have not done that. They have proven themselves for the most part, and I think I would want to, like, like, just at the bare minimum, Joachim is going to come across different now. We know a lot more about him. We know his story, and we're going to think about him different.
Yeah, like his loyalty to Khan, we're going to think about, like, man, like, this guy remembers being like a 15-year-old when like Khan, like, gave him his sword and, like, named him his champion, and, like, of course he, grew up loyal to this guy.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll also help corroborate, like, Khan's extreme emotions, like knowing more about, like, all that Khan lost, to make him almost, like, senile and, like,
yeah,
Khan.
It's going to be interesting. The voice actors are going to be doing some very different stuff in, like, 2 or 3 episodes, because it's going to be like this hellscape, and I'm like, Naveen Andrews is probably going to be starting to get more, like, shouty, crazed. He's going to start losing it. We've heard glimpses of that. We have heard some of that stage, but I'm fascinated to find what kind of ins and outs of the story. The story doesn't just become we permanently hole up inside the shuttle pods or these buildings after the shift happens. There will be more facets to the story still at that point, and I will be very interested to see what they invent for it.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing to think about, like, an actor getting this opportunity to tell this story of, like, okay, here is Ricardo Montalban's performance of the character in Space Seed. Here's him doing it in The Wrath of Khan. Now you get to fill in the gap. You get to be the arc that connects A to B in there. I think that would be, like, a really fascinating role to take on as an actor.
What I think would be really interesting too is if Khan does get more and more, like, red flag, and Marla actually decides to leave Ceti Alpha 5 on the shuttle pod with her baby, and Ursula helps her cover that escape and says, like, oh, she was killed by the Ceti eels, and, like, then, maybe Marla's baby is Dr. Lear or whatever. But, like, that's also still an option. Like, we have that shuttle pod. I can't stop thinking about it. Like, there's an escape off the planet, for someone.
I don't know if they have any vehicle with any propulsion that can go anywhere. But
who knows what Paolo could come up with. He was doing some impressive stuff.
Yeah. It just makes me think a little bit. Like, it still just makes me think there's so many ways that this series can go, and, like, it's still aligned with what Khan thinks in Wrath of Khan. Even if that's not what actually happens, but Khan could still think that died.
Yeah.
One of my I'm a kind of a Shakespeare nerd, and I might have mentioned this before in past episodes, but in oh my gosh, I'm suddenly blanking on the name of one of the plays. It's the one with the black guy Othello. At the very end of it, he strangles his wife Desdemona, and the first time I read it, he thinks she's cheated on him and all this stuff. There's a bit where after he's done it, there's people, like, pounding at his door to let him in and check on her. And I hadn't read the play or seen it performed or anything. And there's a bit where he's, like, turns around and he's like, wait, she's still stirring. I think maybe she's still alive. And, like, I didn't know exactly how the story went. So I was like, oh shit, she is alive. And like my heart kind of leapt at this moment, but it's kind of him he's wanting it to happen. He's regretting it, and he's seeing what he wants to see or needs to see for the moment. That doesn't happen. This series is kind of putting me in that same spot, but in a kind of an expanded way, where in this space between this story and Khan, like you say, Taylor, there's a lot that could happen. They've left themselves room to do some surprises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. I every week I'm like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? Mm-hmm. So,
Jill in the audience says, I really want Taylor's idea to happen now. We need Khan to get less sympathetic soon, I think. And I kind of agree with that. I think they've done a very good job of showing how, like, he could have lived up to Kirk's promise. For like sort of in the one brief shining moment, he did in this episode, I think. And but I think it's time to see the downfall.
Mm-hmm. See, and sorry, another thing I'm thinking. Sorry, I'm just gonna tangent again. Yep. But like, if Mado has that baby, like Ursula's gonna want to protect that baby because that's her kid, and like if she sends Marla off to protect her kid, like she could easily add Mado to the away, to get out. Or, like it could, I just feel like Ursula and Marla are going to have so much more in this show because of the animosity we saw originally and now the amicability, I can't say that word, but the friendship that's kind of come up in this episode, like with this camaraderie that they have. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is going to be very important to the season finale. Like there's something between Ursula and Marla that they've really shown like friends or enemies to friends. That I think is going to be very important to the plot. And I just haven't figured out what it is yet.
But there's still ways it could kind of go wrong. Like, I feel like, what if there's like, where there's only one space on this ship, and she's like, and Ursula's like, well, it's going to be my kid, and Marla's like,
Oh, what if one pregnant mom has to like kill another pregnant mom to like?
Right. No, that's not happening.
If there's only one lifeboat and they can't both have it, it's like.
You'd have to do some seriously good writing to win me over on that one.
I know, that would be real hard for me too.
Yeah, but this is big speculation time, and maybe we're wrong, and maybe Lear is just an interested party. But I have this feeling, there's almost no doubt in my mind, there's some connection between Lear and these people, and I suspect Lear is it's going to be something like we've talked about.
Well, yeah. If anyone out there watching or listening has any theories they'd like to share with us, you can always comment on YouTube or Spotify, or I occasionally put out posts on social media asking people what they think about these episodes of Star Trek Con. So, but chime in and give us some subspace transmissions to share. I don't have anything right now to share, but. If we get anything this next week, I might bring it up on the show next week when we discuss episode 5.
These are some juicy episodes. There's lots to talk about. I'd love to hear some opinions. And I'm loving all the comments. It seems like, broadly speaking, I'm, as I look at our comments in the last couple episodes, almost everybody seems to be on board it. There's people a little bit more or less wanting to be sympathetic towards Khan. But nobody is saying, oh, they botched this, or it's really not kind of firing. Everybody's like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It's odd to say this because, Star Trek fans love to nitpick, and I'm just as guilty as anyone else. But yeah, I have not heard much negativity about Star Trek Con. Most people seem to be liking it, or liking it with a few hesitations, but still overall liking it. But now that I've said that, someone's going to comment somewhere and be like, you're wrong, I don't like it, I've always disliked it, and you're stupid for not already knowing that. But
sure, I'll hear that out too. You know what, go ahead and say it.
But we love engagement, so comment whatever you want. But also at the end of the show, I like to talk about the Gorn eggs, or just Easter eggs, in jokes and continuity connections in the episode that we thought would be fun to bring up. But I don't really have much. We just get to hear that cool TOS phaser I'm just wondering, do y'all picture that as a Type 1 phaser or Type 2 phaser? The little cricket remote control looking thing, the Type 1, or like the gun that actually has like a handle on it?
The black
like,
guns from the shows. That's what I pictured.
The Type 2 phaser.
Type 2.
I always imagine the gun looking one, the one that's like hidden in the light fixture. That's
that's what I think, but it'd probably be easier for Marla to hide the Type 1 phaser, but the Type 2 just looks cooler.
Yeah.
But they also have the Prime Directive is brought up in this episode, and the Marla and Khan conversation. And as Dave mentioned, the Dino Scanner, which I believe has only ever been mentioned before in the Wrath of Khan, and then one episode of TNG Ethics. But that's all I got. So I guess we'll go ahead and sign off. But thank you so much, everyone who joined us in the live audience. Thank you so much, everyone watching or listening later. Please come back next week for episode 5. And until then, as always, wait, let me make sure I got the right intro or outro video. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Subscribe to YouTube to watch the Tex-Trek podcast live or listen to us later on your favorite podcast platform. Follow Stephen Fothery on socials at TXTrek. Thank you and take care.